Do you sometimes wonder how a fighting game would be played if it was on ice? No? Well, I did. The journey started as any other 3D game, by making the project and adding some beats. After making the first movement script though, I just kind of realized the beans can't actually fight or slip. So I stole, downloaded a 3D model and started animating him with procedural animations. If you don't know much about procedural animations, it's basically animations, but more painful. The model also had two large problems. First of all, it has very short legs, which should pose no problem to us. But it also has hands, which I could solve by precisely remaking the model and bending each finger to form a realistic looking fist, or I could just... With this new, very detailed player character, I prototyped the movement. Sweet! All that this game about fighting on a slippery floor is missing is fighting and the slippery floor. For the gameplay, I need two essential ingredients: the fighting system and a good enemy AI. Phew. Making the fighting system is the easy part. Just a health and balance system, a bunch of animations for different attacks and other states, and a glorified collision detection with some logic behind it to determine hits, parries, blocks, etc. I also use procedural animations for this, just to have the fist always aim for the head of the enemy, no matter where it is currently. Which brings me to the enemies themselves. At the moment they just kinda stand there, so I'm able to smash them easily. Just like you should smash that like button. This will change with the addition of enemy AI, specifically a behavior tree, which meant that I had to sort of hardcode its decision making, and you can probably imagine how that went. Anyways, I wanted to see how the game would feel now that it's sort of playable, so I added a lot of polish. Particles, sound effects, camera shakes, visual effects, I added all of the polish. Maybe except for these guys. So, let me present to you... the game! Looks great, right? Right? The last major feature we need to add are the slippery surfaces. Normally, you could just set the friction of the material to 0. The problem is, well, you could say that the only force used in the game is the force of magic. There are no actual physical forces applied in the movement, the objects just move. And so, there's nothing else for us to do other than to simulate the ice by code. Thankfully, I'm such an experienced programmer that it shouldn't... Whee! No, really. Outside of some misguessed values, implementing the ice was easy. Stopping the enemies from going flying was not. Speaking of hard things, it's time to make some maps. Level design is one of the greatest pitfalls of game dev, as it requires you to have at least a notion of what you're doing, which directly clashes with my philosophy on development in general. Thankfully, this game has very modest requirements in terms of maps. They just need to be there and maybe have some ice included, so I can build them with some free assets from the Unity asset store. And I also made a little quote-unquote boss fight, which was just a larger version of a normal enemy. So it was of course very unproblematic. I felt I was getting quite close to the finish line when I realized I just kinda forgot about making more attack moves. First I experimented with big, strong and slow variants of punches, but then scratched it for obvious reasons. So I whipped out a front kick which knockbacks an enemy or simply knees and stuns him if he's too close. It adds a lot of depth to the fighting system, but it's mostly just fun to Sparta kick the blue boys into lava. I was thinking about letting the enemies kick as well, but it would probably make the game unplayable unless I made significant changes to how their kicks work, at which point there's probably zero reason to have them. All that was left to do now was to put the puzzle pieces together. So I made a campaign mode with a really smart and realistic story that guides you through the levels, a tutorial and a main menu, which somehow broke the game completely. Yay, shitty coding practices. If you wanna play the game yourself, there's a link in the description that will take you to my itch.io page, where you can get it for free. And if you do, any feedback would be much appreciated. That's gonna be it from me today. Like, subscribe, write a comment about how fabulous my hair looked, and I'll see you in the next devlog. Bye bye!